4 years ago, I was broke, like properly broke. In fact, I was so broke that the girlfriend that I had at the time ended up dumping my ass because I couldn't provide the lifestyle that she wanted. Understandably, because I could barely even afford tuna and rice. But today I get to do what I love full time while having the freedom and flexibility that I had always dreamed of. And don't worry, I've upgraded from tuna and rice to lamb and rice. So how did I get here? In 2021, I was working for an agency as a graphic designer. And unfortunately, the scope and growth for a graphic designer in an agency was very, very limiting. So I took probably the most terrifying leap of faith where I ended up resigning from that job in the hopes and pursuit of being a full-time videographer and Twitch streamer. And unfortunately, as I mentioned, you kind of heard of how that ended for me. Not the best. As I mentioned before, I was barely making ends meet to the point where I had to take on part-time jobs just to keep the tuna and rice flowing. You know what's funny? I was so jacked. I guess the broke diet really does wonders. But all jokes aside, I really had to take on a bunch of part-time jobs as a video editor just to keep the bread flowing. And one of the toughest parts about that season in my life was I felt like I had incredible talent and skill, but I was very held back by equipment and gear because yes, unfortunately, equipment and gear does matter. At the time, all I owned was a Canon M50. That poor beauty, that thing did wonders. Hey, that thing did wonders. So what was the turning point? It was that one day when I just had enough. Obviously, being dumped kind of sets you on a different path because you're broke. But the main thing was killing my ego. And I feel like a lot of the time it's ego that holds us back. Whether you're already in a full-time job or you're doing it as a side hustle or you're doing it full-time, your ego can really hold you back. So I put my ego aside and I took up a full-time job as a video editor at an agency that I really despised. They treated me really badly there, but I sucked it up. And the main difference that I really want you to pay attention to was my mindset. I had already had a taste of what freedom was like because obviously I was a full-time Twitch streamer videographer. I tasted what that freedom was like. So going back to a full-time employment, my mindset shift was I am not a company employee. That company was now my client. And because I had a vision and a taste of ambition, that client, I took that salary. And for me, that salary was now going to fund my future business. And I think that is one thing that holds a lot of incredible potential videographers and photographers back is seeing yourself as just an employee rather than treating that company as your client and taking the money and investing it because you earn your salary. Of course, you have your expenses. You need to put food on the table. Maybe you have medical aid. You need to put away some savings. And then you have a little bit of disposable income that you can enjoy, whether it be buying games or buying accessories, headphones, any equipment that you know that you're into. But not embracing a season of sacrifice. And that's where the ego comes in because now you're trying to prove to people that you can live a certain lifestyle. So for me, it was killing my ego and embracing a season of sacrifice where the majority of my salary was now going to fund equipment that I knew I needed for my business. So for the next few months, what I did was I spent a lot of my income on buying lighting, then buying microphones, and then buying a camera, and then buying a MacBook. Over the course of the next 6 months, basically, I lived off not partying and not spending money on alcohol or entertainment, but just on my business. You really, really, really have to decide. You have to pre-decide that this company you're working for is your client and they're funding your business, and you need to be willing to make that sacrifice. The other part and why I speak so much about the ego was I had to realize I'm not the best. Like there's always going to be someone better out there, but it doesn't mean I can't stop improving. So what I would do was I would find trending reels and videographers that were doing really well, and I would download the reels that they had posted that had gone viral. I would analyze it and study it frame by frame. And I would study, how the heck do I do that? How do I do that type of transition? How do they flow from transition to transition? What type of sound effects do they use? And I would really just take a moment to study their work, because I knew I'm not the best, but I'm getting better. What I would then do is I would take what I'd learned from those videos and I would ask my friends, hey, can I film a reel for you in the gym? Can I film a workout reel for you? And that is exactly how I landed my first client. I started filming one of my best friends in the gym, and he had a coach, one of the most incredible persons, which I'll tell you about now, but he helped me launch my business. And little did I know, I just was like, hey, can I shoot a little video for you for free? Shot a little video for him. Next thing you knew, he was my first client. Before I get to the next point, what I really want to hammer down is you cannot rush this process. Some things just take time. Some things just need to unfold and align. But the main thing that you need to focus on is yourself, and that you're improving on a daily basis, whether it's your video editing, your lighting, your style, and who you are and how you communicate to clients. And don't jump off of the ship too quickly, because what I had learned from my previous mistake was I had quit my job very stupidly and drowned. So now, how do you jump ship? Well, the main thing is now you're working for a company, they're funding your business, and now you want to land your first client that you can work for either on weekends or after hours, right? That business of yours is now technically a side hustle, and you need to grow that side hustle, because if you can make $500, $1,000, there's proof in the pudding. And all you need to do is continue doing that, because word of mouth spreads. Other people will see it. And if you're good enough, because the cream will always rise to the top, no matter how much competition there is, other people will notice you. So my advice to you, before you go full time, is to build up that side hustle until it's able to replace all your expenses and you can afford food, basically to replace your salary. So now you're at the point where you have your salary and you have your side hustle income. What is the next step? For me, to get to the next step was a process. It took about a year. For a year, I was buying equipment, buying lighting, buying cameras, lenses, microphones. And within that year, I'd also then registered the business, made sure that I got an email domain that was professional, because that really does make a very big impact when you're emailing clients. And also when you're invoicing clients, they're seeing that when they're paying into your bank account, it's not going into a personal account, it's going into a business account. So they will take you more seriously, and it allows you to increase your prices, because it's not just Joel dealing with them, it's SJ Video Media Pty dealing with them. So I want you to be intentionally patient. So intentionally, you're getting better. You're funding your business with whatever income it is. Maybe you're waitering or waitressing. Maybe you're helping out in production companies as your main income, and you're using that to fund. Once you're like built up in equipment and connections and you got a side hustle going, do not neglect getting a professional email and registering your business. Registering your business nowadays is not the hardest thing on the planet. You just need to know where to go, what to do, get the right documents, and be willing to pay a small fee. If you're struggling to go full time and that is absolutely your dream, if you have any questions, please put them down in the comments. I'll be so happy to answer them and help you, just as I wish I had answers and help along the way. And if you take away anything from this how I went from dead ass broke, being dumb for being broke, to now living a lifestyle of freedom, enjoying it, embracing it, and growing every single month, it's that you must never lose that ambition and the taste that you have and the creativity that you have. And also, everything comes down to your mindset. Your mindset is so important. If things fail and go wrong, please never play the victim. Always take it as a lesson and continue to pursue your dreams and bet on yourself, but do it with wisdom.